So good afternoon, everyone, to the session number 12 of this FDP, which is funded by AICT Training and Learning Academy. And the title of the FDP, as we all know, is the use of GIS and remote sensing in agriculture and natural environment. Today, in this FDP, we have Dr. Siddharth Khare with us, who will be going through his talk on the introduction to QGIS, which is an open source software very frequently used in the area of GIS. So before I invite Dr. Khare to the talk, I would like to introduce all of you to him. So Dr. Khare obtained his master's and PhD from Department of Civil Engineering with specialization in geomatics engineering from IIT Roorkee. During his PhD, he visited University of Wolfsburg, Germany for his research work twice and received that German fellowship to participate in the summer school of University at Freiburg. After his education, he joined S3-sponsored GIS department at NIIT University, India as an assistant professor and served there for nearly 2 years. In 2018, he moved to Canada and began a 2-year postdoctoral fellowship at University of Quebec, Canada. He then spent time as a visiting postdoctoral researcher at the University of Naples, Italy, where he was also awarded the Young Researcher Best Paper Award at 2019 IEEE conference. Following this position, Dr. Khare has also accepted another postdoctoral appointment at McGill University in Canada, where he is still working. In addition to this, he is also providing his remote sensing and GIS expertise as an academic associate with the Habitat Consultancy from Montreal, Canada. He has given numerous talks and conducted various training workshops related to QGIS and R programming within India and abroad. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Khare for this talk. So Dr. Khare, over to you.
Thank you, Tej, for this introduction. So I can start the...
Yeah, sure. You can please share your screen.
So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Siddharth Khare and currently working as a postdoctoral fellow at McGill University and also as an academic associate at Habitat. It is a consulting firm which provides expertise for natural resource solutions. So I'm very delighted that I got the opportunity to present this introduction about the QGIS at this faculty development program conducted by Shivnadar University. So in this session, I'm going to cover some basic aspects of QGIS. I hope, so based upon some statistics, I got the information that some of you are beginners, some of you are at the intermediate level, some of you are at the expertise level. Since there are a majority of people are in this room are from the beginning level, so I will start the introduction of QGIS from the very scratch. Moving to the next slide. Okay, so the goal of this workshop is basically to give you the idea of what is QGIS is all about, and then how to understand like the key spatial concept and GIS functions in QGIS, and how to handle like different spatial database in QGIS, and how to handle the raster data with the QGIS. Because it is a 2-hour workshop, so I will try to cover the most of the things which are related to the basics and at the intermediate level. And if you have further queries after this workshop, you can write me. So I'll give you my contact information after that. So basically, when you talk about the GIS, that is a geographical information system. So when you're working on any software, whether it is quantum GIS, that is called QGIS, or any other ArcGIS software, the end product is a map. Basically, if you're working on, for example, if you want to prepare a data for different type of roads, then you will prepare the map of roads containing different information that what are the different type of roads are there. If you are preparing the database, for example, different type of tree species, then in that case, you forest management, they may be interested in what are the different type of tree species present within a city or within a country. In that case, you will be preparing a map. So the end product of any GIS operation is a map. So just for example, in this case, if you see, there are two different type of maps. These maps contain a lot of information. For example, if you check this one, in this case, then in this case, this is the North American continent, and so this is the base layer, and it is a kind of topographic layer, which is showing the topography of this North American continent. And apart from this, you can see the information that where it is located, means what is the north, like what is the grid and special reference coordinate system for this particular continent. So these degrees, minutes and seconds are telling the location of this continent on this earth. And then what is the direction of the north? So this is the direction of the north. And what is the scale size? So this scale basically representing the amount of information on the ground and amount of information on this map. So this is the ratio between map and the ground information. Now, if you see in this case, I'm highlighting one particular section here with the red color, that is the Quebec province of the Canada. So in this map, we can see there are a lot of information are present apart from this basic layer. So this basic layer is representing the entire North American continent along with the sea and both the sides. And along with this, it is highlighting the information about the province. Now, the idea of this map is basically is to understand and give the basic understanding to the users. Okay, I'm highlighting this province because I'm more interested in this. Now in this big map, if you see, this is the province that it is representing with a particular type of information. So in this case, this is the MODIS remote sensing data set. And here I'm using the NDVI, that is normalized difference vegetation index. And this index is basically represented in the form of map for this map, this Quebec province. So in this case, they're showing the vegetation greenness, how it is changing from south to the north. And what this color representation, basically it is giving me the information that how this NDVI value is changing from minimum to maximum. And then again, this information, within this also, you can see the different grids. So these grids are showing the locations, the latitude, longitude of this map, and then the scale. So you can see here in this case, this size is 2000 kilometer on the ground. And in this case, this size is 1000 kilometer on the ground. So that's how you can represent a map which shows a different type of information. So in this case, we can say we have represented a raster data, and in this raster data, this is the information for the normalized difference vegetation index, that how the greenness, how the vegetation is changing from south to the north, but in particular for this province. So now you can prepare the different type of maps based upon the requirement of the user. So that is the concept that we are going to deal with this QGIS here. Now, moving forward, why do we create maps? The first question is this. So everybody is aware about their cell phones. In the cell phones, we have Google Maps, and we use Google Maps every day for our navigation purpose. And we want to find where the nearest restaurant from our location is, or you want to move from one point to another point. What is the bus you would like to take? What is the metro station is nearest to you, and you would like to take the metro? What is the timing of that metro? So that's how we actually are using this map in our daily life. But in this case, what is the information that we are actually using in this case of map? That is simple and visual way. That is the most important thing, so that everybody can understand the purpose of this map, and it should be user friendly as well. And they basically teach about the world by showing the size, shapes of country, location of the feature. That is the most important part in a map, the locations, because you cannot navigate without a location, and location means you have the information about the latitude and longitude, or I should say X and Y of that particular point. So basically in the phone, there is a GPS, and with the help of GPS, basically you can calculate the location of your point where it's standing. And then with the help of this, you can navigate from one point to another point. So you're using the GIS as a base layer, and additionally the GPS locations, and then you use these two information in order to navigate from one point to another point. So basically navigation is one of the important aspects. And then you can check the weather and other information about the local weather stations and other world maps by using the different information. And then it is more than the diagrams. And the diagram basically, it is basically if you want to explore the world, if you want to engage more properly and more productively, then the maps are very, very important. So if you're traveling from one country to another country, and if you are new to another country, then I think it will be very, very useful for you because you are not aware about that locations. So that's why I think the maps are very important aspect in our daily life. Now the different type of maps are there. We can say general reference map and thematic map. So these are the two major things, domains where we divide the type of maps. The first one is like the general reference map, where we give emphasis on some special features, and it could be natural and man-made features, and they're meant basically to give help in like navigation and the discovery of locations. So there are a variety of maps, types of map, basically the political maps, if you say the physical map, a road map, topographic map, time zone map, or geological maps, and zip code maps. So these are different category that we can say, okay, these belongs to a general reference map. So in this case, in all the cases, you can see either you're talking about the discovery of locations, so basically, or the navigation. So we are giving emphasis on some special feature here. Now, the another type of map is called thematic map. So the focus on a specific theme or a subject area means like if you're talking about the weather maps, okay, if you want to understand the heat wave pattern of North American continent, or the weather pattern of currently in India, like what is the monsoon pattern in India. So in that case, these maps are called thematic map. What is the vegetation type? What are the different type of forest areas within the Indian subcontinent? Then you can see, you can use this thematic map information, and you can use the raster data or the vector data in order to prepare that map. Income maps, resource map, and the population map, the census map that we see like that every 10 years that we revise. Education maps. So that's how, if you're focusing on a specific theme, then you have to use the thematic maps. So you should be very much aware about the type of map that you are actually interested in different type of applications. Now in this case, if I will show you the example of topographic map, for example, in topographic map, I don't think it is showing, so no problem. Basically, in topographic map, basically, if you see a digital elevation model of any area, I'll show you in the QGIS. So if you have the digital elevation model of any area, then you can see the variation in the height or the elevation from plain surface to the highly elevated zone. So in that case, if you click on any point, then in that case, what will happen? You will see the elevation of that area. So if you have noticed on the railway station, then you might have seen it is showing the height from the mean sea level. So that is the place where you can they give the high accurate or benchmark height for any location on the Earth's surface. So it is not visible here. I don't know why, but I'll move on to the next map that is called education map. That is a part of thematic map. So in this case, this is the map of from Statistics Canada, and it is showing the information about the percentage of population that is between 25 to 64, and how many people are in this graduated from university. So this is the different colors they have represented that these number of peoples are basically, and this is the color scale that maximum like greater than 28% are basically if belonging to some areas. So they are the locations where majority of people are mostly graduated from the university. So that's how you can represent the education map. If you move towards the college, so you can see, okay, so in within this these locations, so they've shown with a different color scheme, and these are the locations where the people are graduated from the college. So that's how you can prepare the different type of maps based upon the requirement, and then you can distribute to the local public so they can use for their further purposes. Now the important question is how to prepare a map. So in order to prepare a map, you need some basic map element information. And now you will ask, like, what are those map elements? So if you see in this image, basically, there are a lot of things which are present on this ground. For example, trees, there is a road, there are some houses as well, and the water body, and other information are present. Now, in order to map this area, you have to understand the logic that these roads, trees, ground, or these urban like these buildings, they can be divided into certain type of map elements. If we are able to divide them, if we are able to segregate them, then we can use this information to prepare a very beautiful map. So in this case, if you see this landscape, you can see the main features, which are roads, houses, and trees. That's what I said previously. And if you identify them, and then you can divide into 3 different categories. So basically, the first one is the polygon. So if you talk about the building feature or this agricultural land, you can make it as a polygon. And if you talk about the road or any water feature, it could be a line feature, because it is basically you can use this road from moving from one point to another point. So this could be a line feature. And the third one, which is like the stationary thing, is this the trees. So trees could be a point feature, or poles, it could be a point feature. So that's how you can differentiate different type of features on the ground by using these 3 different aspects, like the polygon, point, and line. I'll show you on the QGIS also. So data types, there can be divided into 2 different types, vector and raster. So this one is the vector data type, where you can see these are the points. It could be trees, poles, or anything. And this is the line data type. So it could be road, water, pipeline, or anything. And this is the polygon feature, which could be your buildings, your agricultural land, your forest land, whatever, based upon the requirement on the landscape. So basically, this is called the vector data, and this is called the raster data. And the difference between these 2 data sets is that the raster basically represent the continuous field or discrete objects on the grid. So basically, if you have an image which you take normally from your phone as well, that is a gridded data set. And each grid, it is basically the size of the pixel that basically associated with your mobile phone and the camera sensor. And each spatial resolution basically tells that this is the size of the pixel. So for example, if you have 5 by 5 meter by 5 meter, so representing the 5 meter by 5 meter on the ground. And then it could be discrete, it could be continuous, and vector data is basically it represents the discrete object in the real world. It points, line, and polygons in the data set. So that is the difference between vector and raster data, because it could be gridded, and it is present the continuous field. But in the case of vector, it is always a discrete data set. So in this case, it could be contour lines. So contour lines basically they represent the variation in the elevation in any type of landscape. So by using this information, you can actually prepare the maps by using either raster data or by using the vector data. So this basic concepts are very important, that which type of data type that you're using and what are the different elements, map elements that you're going to use in order to prepare your map. So it could be point, line, or polygon. What is quantum GIS? So basically, the short form is QGIS. It is open source and free GIS software. And basically, this software is now very popular because of its open source feature, and it has a lot of features and functionality apart similarly like ArcGIS, and it is a very good alternative to the commercial ArcGIS, especially to the users who are not able to afford this commercial software like ArcGIS. And it can run on Windows, Mac, and Linux platforms. And there are a lot of packages and open source library which are available. You can build your own tool if you know the Python, and then you can add this plugin. It will remain some days. It will remain experimental. Once it will be approved, it will be part of this software with full functionality. So that's the beauty of this Quantum GIS. Basically, they started with very small version, like initial version was they contain very small number of features, but now it is well known software, and many organizations and many people are using for their research purpose as well. And you can build your own plugins, as I said, and there are different functionality features are associated with that. So in this, because it is an introduction and I'm covering from the beginning, so I will cover the basic aspect about this QGIS. But in the coming future, maybe I'll cover another talk. Maybe I'll cover the advanced part of this QGIS software. So this is open source community. If you go to this website, so if you go to this website, you can download this software, and Yes. Okay. So basically what you can do basically in this, if you go to this website, you can click on this download now. So in the download now, basically you have different versions are available. So you can see the long-term release, the most stable version which is available right now is the standalone installer version 3.16. This is also 3.20, but it is not recommended for the beginners because it has some bugs also because they're in the experimental phase. But if you want to use the stable version, then this is the stable version 3.16. And it is available for both 32-bit and the 64-bit operating system, and you can download for Mac, Linux, and also for the Windows. And there are different releases, so if you want to go and see the previous versions as well, so you can see the previous version started from 1.4.0, and so like it is available from 2nd December 2017, and then different versions are available for this. So you can download the whichever version you're interested in, and you can see the difference between the current version and the older version. And there are different sources. You can see the QGIS source code, and you can also take the information about the plugins, what are the different plugins are available. And you can also go to the documentation part, so you can read that how to use this, because in this workshop I'm going to give you some basics, and if you want to brush up further, then in that case you can go to those guided tour manuals, and you can use those information for your further learning of the QGIS. So it is an open source, a lot of documentation is freely available on the internet, so and you can use this information for getting advanced information about this software. So one thing I will also recommend all of you that download this software in your PC if you're learning like listening this workshop. And now moving forward with this. Okay. So this is the typical like interface of QGIS. So in this case, you can see this is the menu bar. If you open the QGIS, so this is the menu bar, and there are different tools. So it is called toolbar. Tools are available in this, and here you can see basically data options. So different type of data that you can actually import in the QGIS environment. And here you can give the information, like you can import different type of layers. So this is called the layer panel. So you can see in this case there are different layers like water, roads, contours, buildings, and this is the data view. So whenever you will import any layer in this layer panel, you can see the data view here. Now in this case, this is the general representation. Now we'll move to the main QGIS. Anybody has question?
Yeah, there is a comment that the slides are not moving, but they're moving for me.
Okay. So I don't know, but it's moving.
Can you please go to full screen?
Yeah, sure. Is it moving now?
Yeah, they were moving to me. Right now you're on basic elements, basic map elements. Yeah, they are moving.
Yes.
Thank you.
So no problem if the slides are not moving. Now I just want to get confirmed from the audience that is this the QGIS interface is visible to everyone? Just confirm me, so like.
Yes, it is visible to me. Yeah, it is visible.
Okay. Okay. So now if you see this interface, now this is the if you start the 3.16 version, so that's how it will start. Now this is the layer panel, and here the where different data browser option, and then you can simply click on this new empty project. So now in this case, this is the data view where you can view your data, and the other different toolbar options which are available here. And if you are interested in knowing the different sections, so for example, in the project, you want to start the new project, then you can click on this new, and then you can make the new project name. And if you have already existing project, so you can click on this open button, and then you can open this project, your existing project. Now in the edit, nothing is enabled right now because we do not have any layer in this panel. So currently everything is disabled. And the view panel, there are many options from like pen map to the zoom, the statistic summary, and the most important thing is this. These are the two important parts which you should focus right now, the panel. So in this case, what are the different panels that you would like to directly uh, visible along with this main QGIS platform, and the different toolbars. So we can see the different toolbars are there. So the digitizing toolbar, which I am going to show you now, and there are some other like the advanced digitizing toolbar options also. So many options are available here. So it's up to the requirement of the users. You can select the certain even do like just select this checkbox and that toolbar will be added here automatically. Now in the settings, you can see the user profile, and you can style and then custom projections based upon the requirement. And then the most important thing is the layer. So in the layer, you can either create the layer. So in the create layer, there is a first option called the geo package layer. So in this geo package, basically you can create the you can add multiple layers, a different type of layer within this one package, and you can create the and save that package layer. And then you can, whenever you open that package layer, it will automatically import all the layers within that geo package. And if you want to create a single shapefile, then you can create the shapefile. Similarly, there are other options like new temporary sketch layers. So if you want just to create a layer which is just like temporary, then you can just temporarily create that layer. And then in the add layer option, there are multiple options are available. So if you are working with the vector data, you can directly add the vector data, raster that I mentioned previously, raster data, delimited text layer, and other like PostGIS, Specialite, various data sets, basically QGIS platform supports. So you can add all these different type of data sets, and then you can start your operations. And then the plugin. So in the plugin, the most important part is the manage and install of plugin. So if you click on this, you need an internet for that, and you can see how many plugins are already installed. And if you see there are if you click on non-installed, then there are multiple plugins you can see here. So all they are not installed. So if you're interested in certain type of plugin, then you can just search here. For example, if I am interested in GBIF. So if you are interested in this, then maybe if I will. So if you're interested in, for example, 3D city builder, so you just need to select this plugin, and then you can install that this plugin. But they have mentioned here it is an experimental plugin, so it is not completely tested yet, but it is in the experimental mode. So if you go to the setting here, then you can click on this that show. If you check this option, so it will show all the experimental plugin as well. And if you check remove this check, so it will only show those plugins which are in the fully function mode. So it will not show you the experimental plugin. So that is the thing between the difference between the experimental plugins and the normal like fully functional plugins. So that's how you can install all the plugins. Right now I'm not installing anything because I don't need any other required. And then in the vector data set, there are different options are available where you can basically load, for example, the JVF occurrence. This is also a plugin which I was searching previously. So if you want to download this different JVF data set, you can download this JVF. This is the biodiversity data set. It is available across the world, and you can download by using this. And then KML tools, if you are working with Google Earth, so you can convert your KML file to the shape files by using these KML tool, and then other geoprocessing like buffer, clip, and all these advanced operations that you can perform on the vector data. And then the data management tool, that how to merge, reproject, and the split vector data set. So that's how you can basically work on the different type of data sets. If you're working with the vector, if you're working with the raster, then I'll show you some operations here. Now, in this case, the most important thing is in this case is this EP. If you see this here, EPSG 4326. Now this is the if you click on this, this is called
Actually, Dr. Khare, there is, I think the font size may be small because I'm having a big screen, so I'm able to see. So, but there is a one also comment that could you make it full screen? So, can you please increase the font size of the this QGIS software?
Actually, this is I cannot because it is no, I cannot increase the font size here.
Can we give it a try? Can we go to settings? There are options. Then can we select the journal tab on the left? Then yeah, and under this section there is font size.
64, but it will not go look good.
32. Okay, this is the icon size, I guess.
Yeah, this is icon size. So
is there an option for font size as well? Yeah, there is a font size just below this icon size. There's a font size as well. I think 16 will be more than enough, I think. Yeah, I think, yeah, it will do. No, it is not working. I think we have to move forward in this way only.
Yeah, actually, these are the things like if you open on your computer.
Yeah, right.
Then it will be visible to you. If it is not visible, then I have to go back to those.
It is visible. Yeah, it is visible, but it is small. I think. Yeah, I think we can continue. So sorry for the interruption.
No problem. So basically, here in this project properties, these are the most like in the projection is very important because when you're dealing with the raster data or any vector data, then you should be able to figure it out the correct projection system. Currently, like in this case, it is taking 4326. So here, this 4326, that is WGS 84, World Geodetic Survey 84, and the EPSG is the code. So every projection coordinate reference system has a code. So either you cannot remember all, but if you are particularly interested in some areas, for example, if I will talk about the area near to the Roorkee and Delhi, so it is WGS 84 UTM zone 8, here in this case, this is the Quebec province 18, and if I write, for example, UTM zone 43N, so 43N. If you see here, it is showing me the locations. Okay, and here if it is so all the in the case of India. So in India, all these cities and all these from like north, like from south to north. So all these cities will fall into this category. So if you are working on particularly preparing of map of any cities which belong in this stream, then you should use this particular type of reference system. So either you can remember it or you just figure it out, or you can just find out that which like your city or your area belongs to which UTM zone. So in this case, you whenever you will prepare the map, it is very important aspect because if you end up with the wrong projection system, then you will the map will be in the distorted form. So there is a separate section for it in order to explain that how the projection system work. But in general, if you want to use the projection system for entire Earth, then this is the WGS 84, and it is a common reference system that we use in general. So if you want to go for very specific for some like North American continent, so in this case, if you see the Quebec province, which I have shown you earlier, so this is the projection system that we use here. That is a NAD 83 Quebec Lambert. And the reason is that because the Canada is elongated in the horizontal direction and India is elongated in the vertical direction. So if it is more elongated, so in order to do that, in order to represent the accurate size and shape of the country and the required province, we use the different projection system. Now in this case, I'm just selecting back to this. So this is the important aspect that you have to take care whenever you are working on the any preparation of any map. Now here you can see the coordinates. Right now it is showing me just like -3 0.805. But if you open for example any plugin, now there is a plugin called OpenLayer plugin. So in OpenStreetMap, if you just click on this, now we have this map of the entire Earth. And this again, this map is it is shown in this. If you see this EPSG has changed, so it is pseudo Mercator. So it is taking the pseudo Mercator 3857. You can also change to WGS 84 4326. So if you see, if you change it, the representation will change here. So that's how you can basically change the representation of your map based upon your requirement. If you see in generally like this is not the actual size of the green line, it is smaller than this, but in this case it is more elongated, so that's why it is showing the larger size here. So now this is the general representation of OpenStreetMap. I'll remove it and I will keep moving it. Now if I want to start any project in this, so I can just start simply by creating a new project. So do you want to save the current project? Disregard. Okay. And I want to create a new project. And then I want to add some layers into that. Now, if you want to add the existing layers, if you already have some existing layers, so you can add into this panel by using this option, Open Data Management. So in this case, if you see, if you're interested in adding the vector layer, so you can go and navigate to that page and you can add this. Similarly, raster layer, you can go and navigate to, and then again like delimited text layer. Now, for example, in this case, I'm interested in adding the raster layer, for example. So in the raster layer, I'm just adding this part, browse, and I'm interested in adding the, for example, a DEM, for example. So this is the DEM in the near to Dehradun. But you can see this DEM is not visible, like it is just showing the black and white, the gray scale of this DEM. So the minimum value is 0 and the maximum value is 881. So this basically the value is means it is represent the elevation value because it is distal elevation model. So the minimum value is 0 meter, the maximum value is 881. So maximum height is 881. Now, if in order to make it more beautiful, you can just select this layer. So this is your raster layer. If you go to the properties here, now just go to the information. And then we can see that there are different type of information which is associated with this layer is present here. So the name is which is given by me. You can change the name as well. The path, the CRS, which I mentioned previously. So this area that belongs to UTM zone 44N. And it is like it has a different code EPSG 32644. If you see in the bottom here, I don't know whether it is visible to you or not. It will as soon as I have loaded this layer, this EPSG information has been changed. It has actually changed based upon this layer. So as soon as I added this layer, this information has been updated. Now this is the extent. So the extent means the coordinates. What are the x and y extent of this layer? What is the unit? Because it is an UTM. So it is the unit is meter, and with the height of this image and the data type of this image. What is the format of saving, like GeoTIFF format it is available, and in which location it is present, and how many bands it has. So in this case, it is only having one band, and then other statistics about this image, and then more information. So now you can see one more information, that is the pixel size. So the each pixel of this image is 30 by 30. So there is 30 meter spatial resolution of this distal elevation image. Now source, we know, okay, this is the information, the source, that is called the coordinate reference system, and the symbology. So in the symbology, it is called the layer properties. So now you can either work by opening this layer properties here, or you can close here. And if you go to this view, or if the layer styling options are not enabled, so they see that this box is already checked, the layer styling. So if you see here the right side at the bottom, if you click here, I think I have to reduce this size because
Yeah, sorry for that, Dr. Khare.
no, it's okay. Just wanted to make sure it's okay.
I think it was default was 16, I think.
Okay, so no problem. So now if you click on this left panel, layer styling. So if you just click or right click on this, so either you go to the properties and then you can go to the symbology, and all these options are available. And either you can go and then just click on this zoom to layers. It will automatically fit this layer into this window and in the display panel. And then in the layer styling option, so there are multiple options are available here. So in this case, the first one, it looks like a paintbrush. So this is single gray image. Now you can create a single band pseudo color. So for example, if I want to display this map more beautifully, then there are options like single band pseudo color. So it is kind of a rainbow. It is showing you here. So different options like what type of interpolation that you want to use. If you want to use discrete information, linear information, or exact information. Right now I'm currently keeping it linear. So it has automatically, because previously the class option by default is 5. So it has divided this raster data into 5 different categories from 0 to 881. So you can see it has automatically divided from 0 to 220, then 220 to 441. And if you want to segregate, for example, in the more different fashion, so you can see if as soon as I'm changing the interpolation technique, discrete, linear, or exact, this value is changing. So let me keep it linear. Now one more thing is that I hope you're able to see this live update. I'll keep it up so maybe you can see now. Live update. So in the layer styling, if you see, if you disable this option, then what will happen? If you are making any change, that change will not appear here because you have disabled this option. If you click on this live update, so as soon as you are changing the options here, the information is changing in this panel here as well. Now, if you want to change this value manually, so I want to keep it, for example, 100 and to 50 and then 500 and like this. So, but it's not that good. Now I want to increase more intervals of this class. So maybe you can divide into equal interval and you can divide into, for example, 10 classes. So now you can see there are more number of classes here, and then it has automatically changed this appearance of this. So that's how you can basically change the information by using the changing the layer style information here, and then different information about the brightness, saturation, contrast, and all these things are available here. And in this case, for example, if you want to change the color ramp, you can also change the different color ramps by using the different colors. So you can see if you change here, the information will change. And then you can also create a new color ramp. So if you click on this, then you can create your new one. And if you want to go for example, all color ramps, so different color ramps are present here. So whatever color ramp you will select, the information in this panel will automatically change. So that's how you can prepare this different like styling for your raster data set. Now, for example, I'm just interested in this small area. I'm not interested in the bigger area. So I want to see, okay, this area DEM. So what are the different techniques that you can use? So in general, in the raster data set, what will happen if you clip this information out of it, then you can create the DEM of only this area. So in order to clip it, you can basically use either any other like information like the size of this area that you can create by using the shapefile. So either you can create it by yourself. If you have already created it, then you can import into this layers panel. So for example, if I want to import, so I want to add vector layer, and then in the vector layer I have this shapefile. Now we are dealing with both, currently dealing with both, like the vector data and the raster data. So this vector data is, what is the type of this vector data? The type is polygon. So if you click on this info properties, layer properties. So I'm just doing it once again. If you have missed, right click and properties. So this information, if you see here, the information panel. So this is the geometry of this. shapefile. That is the polygon, and this is the projection system. Because this is a square box, it could be any other shape also, but I'm interested only in this area. So I will use this shapefile to clip this raster data set. So for example, in this case, if you see, I'm interested only in this area. So I will use this shapefile as an input. So if you go to the raster, and then you will see different options here. So in the different options, you will see, okay, no, it is not available in projection. And then clip in the extraction, there is an option called clip raster by extent or clip raster by mask layer. So let me try both the options here. Now in this case, what is the input layer? Input layer is this because I want to clip from this layer, and clipping extent. So if you know the clipping extent, you can enter, or you can basically calculate from the layer. So there are multiple options. As soon as you will click on this option, so you are use map canvas extent, drawn canvas, you can draw also, and you can calculate from the layer. So if you have already an existing vector layer, then I'm using this vector layer. So see, as soon as you are clicking on this vector layer, it is automatically taking the extent. So extent means the x minimum, x maximum, y minimum, and y maximum. So these are the values which are automatically came from this layer. And then if you want to add additional information in this case, then you can save. And then you want to save this layer, so you can either save as a temporary layer or as a save to file. So if you click on save to file, so I just want to do test. I gave the name test. If you see here, it is taking the file name TIFF. But if you click on this, there are multiple type of file options that you can actually create. Like extension, you can add, like you can save this file in different file format. But this is the most stable and file format. But if you're interested in, for example, creating the HDF files and JPG or any other like ASCII grids, then you can save in this format. So for example, here I'm just taking this file format TIFF for in this case. So it is saving me in that particular directory, and I'm clicking on run. So it is this algorithm is running, and then you can see now we have this small portion. So we have already clipped. So we have clipped this bigger area by using this shapefile. So now we have different layers here. So in the GIS, that is the advantage. So if you have different layers, so if I want to move this layer, you can just right click and click move to top. So it is over this layer. Okay, and now this is my main DEM of this bigger area, and I've used this small clip file, that is our shapefile, and we have used this shapefile as an input to clip this bigger raster into the smaller area. And then again, you can do the styling by using different pseudo colors, and then you can extract, like you can prepare the beautiful DEM by using different styling. So that's how you can see this is you can this type of raster operation that you can perform by combining both the vector data and the raster data. So in this case, if you see in the layer panel, we have both like raster layer, like this is the vector layer, and this is the raster layer. So that's how you can do calculation. Now I'll move forward. I'll remove it. So in order to remove, you can just select all these layers by pressing the control button, and then you can just right click, and then you can remove all these layers. So it will ask you this window will pop up, are you sure? You can say okay. Now we do not have anything because we do not have any layer here, so there is no styling, and as soon as you will add the layer, the styling option will enable automatically. And if you click on I'll make it more visible. So if you click on this layer styling, nothing is coming here. If you click on this processing toolbars, so there are different processing toolbar options are available here, and then we can do the operations as we are moving forward in the workshop. Now I'll quickly move, just give me 1 minute. And in this case, for example, just for your information. Now, for example, I want to create a simple map. So how to create a simple map? Now, I just take this area, for example. So this is a normal lake. Now, in this case of in this lake, we have some islands here. You can see some islands here. And then I want to create a layer. So there is an option called here. You can see geo package. The same option is available here. Open data source. This is basically new geo package layer, or you can click on this as well. So if I will click on this new geo package layer, so here you can give the name of the database, table name, and the geometry type. So if I want to create any polygon, line, or any feature, then you can use this geo package. Now, advantage of just geo package layer is that you can add different type of geometry within this database. You are creating a single database, and within the single database, you have line feature, point feature, or polygon feature, whatever is required for your purpose. Or either you can just go in the layer option, and then you can create the shapefile layer. So if you click the shapefile layer option, then you can give the name of the file. So for example, test, or I would say like island, and then the geometry type is polygon. So I can select the polygon, and then I can give the name. So either you can do by using this, or we can create the for example, this geo package here. Now, before moving this, I would like to show you one more thing here. There is an option here in the toolbox that is new temporary scratch layer. So if you click on this new temporary scratch layer, so this will not save you, this is just like a temporary layer that you want to create, and you don't want to save it. You just work on temporary layer, and then you are not bothering about whether I want to save it or not. So for example, I just want to give the name island here, layer name, and now in this case of geometry type, just select the polygon, because island is a polygon type. And then let us give type in the name field. So I just add here. Now the length you can change here. Now the most important part is this. When you're adding any attribute, so any raster data, when you're talking about the raster, like when you're talking about the vector data, it has some attribute information. For example, if you're talking about this island here, so in this case of this island, the name of the island could be the attribute. What is the type of this island, whether it is agricultural land or whether it is a forest, and what is the shape and size of like area of this island. So you can add different fields here. But in order to add those fields, you should be aware about the type. For example, in this case, if I want to understand, give the area. So the area is in decimal. So if you see here, it should be, you should select the type decimal number here, because it could be like 45 point something something kilometer square or meter square. And if you are giving, for example, name, if you want to give the name of the island, so name, it should be a text only. So this is the thing which you have to take care whenever you are preparing the shapefile. And the third part is the length. Now the name of this feature could be very long or it could be very short. If you are already aware about the locations of any area, then you know, okay, the size, the name could be smaller. But if you go in Delhi, for example, there are a lot of names of the street which are very, very long. So in order to take care of this part, you can increase the size of this length. So you can fill all the names like very clearly, whatever the, if it is even longer than the usual name. So that's how you can change the length, and you can change the type of any field, whatever field you are adding here. So for example, here I'm just adding the name. So text and length, for example, I want to keep 20. So just click on this and it will add automatically. Now I want to add, for example, the type, what type of field it is, or I just want to add simply the area. So I just want to add decimal number, and then you can see the precision value as well here. So up to the six precisions, like up to 6.6 values after the decimal, it will give you the value. You can reduce it to 3 or 2, whatever, like whatever your requirement. Okay. So add to the field and then click OK. Now before adding OK, make sure the projection system is same what layer you are currently using. Okay. So I would like to work on this only. Now, okay. So this is there. So now you can see, because this is a temporary layer, so the symbol is coming here automatically. Now, in order to work on this layer, there are, if you click right here, then you will find multiple options like toggle editing, open attribute table, current edits, or something. So this toggle editing mode is like when you enable. So if I have disabled it, if you see it is disabled right now. If you enable it, then this pencil symbol will come here. So in this case, as soon as you will click on this toggle editing mode, you can make changes in this layer, or you can add the new polygon. So maybe I can increase the size here. Options. Okay. So now this was a new temporary scratch layer. This is a toggle editing mode. And here, because this is a polygon feature, so this symbol is coming here. Now I would like to add one polygon here. So this is called add polygon. I'll click on this and I'll zoom here. And I'll create one polygon here. So you can see I'm just clicking on this. I'm not making very precise because you can do it later on your workshop. So that's how basically you can create the polygon. So polygon means you're combining and finishing and coming back to the same point. And this is a combination of multiple points. It could be square, or it could be any shape. And whenever you want to finish it, so you reach to this point, for example, just right click with your mouse, and then this window will pop up as soon as you will right click on this. So if you remember previously, we created two attributes, one with the name and one with the area. So with the name, for example, I want to give the name main island. Okay. And I don't know the area of this. So you can keep it blank. We will calculate it automatically. Okay. So we will keep it blank right now. And you can just give the name main island. Okay. So now as soon as you click OK, so this layer has been created here. Now if you think, oh my god, like I have changed the layers it's not proper, I should change something. So how to change it? Now in order to make any changes in this layer, make sure this toggle editing mode is enabled, and you can go to this vertex tool. So you just go to this vertex tool. So as soon as you will go click on this vertex tool, and you take your cursor from here to here over this polygon, you can see all the different points here. So all these points we have used in order to make this polygon. So all these points are enabled now, and then you can use this for this vertex tool to change the existing shape of your polygon. So for example, if you have here this point here and this point here, I want to change the shape of this, like for example these two I want to change. So what you will do, you just take, so if you're noticing here, whenever I'm taking this cursor over these between these 2 points, there is some highlight is happening again here and here, and then if you click over it, it is highlighting all the points. So if you're going to the specific point, so here if I want going just click on this and move here and there based upon your requirement, and then you just see, so I've changed it. I want to change here as well, and then I can change. Okay, so that's how you can change just click on this left click, make sure you're clicking on the left click and then leave it. So that's why you can change. Now if you want to add any vertex, so for example, if you want to add any vertex here, now if you click on this line, so this plus symbol is coming. Just click on this and you can add any vertex here. So I have changed the shape also and added new vertex. So you can see here I would like to I will click and I have added additional vertex. So initially they were having only 2 vertex. Now we have 4 vertex in between these two, and we have also changed the shape also. So that's how you can actually make changes in the existing shapefile that you have created. And if you want to delete, you can just delete by using the delete button or the back button, and you can make the changes in the existing shapefile. Now I want to save my shapefile. So you just click on this toggle editing mode, And then as soon as you will click on this, you will see the option. Do you want to save the changes to the layer inlet? Yes, I would like to change, like save. So we have done, we have completed. Now all the vertices, you can see they're not visible to us, and it is saved. Now if you right click on this and go to the open attribute table, now you can see this attribute information, the name and the area. So in the name and the area panel, this area panel is blank currently, but the name is there. So these are the two attributes we have added previously. Now you can ask this question, okay, can I make changes to the existing attribute here? Like I want to fill this information area. So you can add this information here. Now area is a geometry that we have created, and then you can use the field calculator here. And if you want to make any changes in the attribute table or any changes in the polygon shape and size, then you have to make sure that this toggle editing mode is enabled. Otherwise, you cannot make any changes here. So I want to update this area. Now in order to update this area, now there are variety of options are available. And then in this case, you can see new field, delete field, organize column, open field calculator. So for example, if I want to calculate the area of this polygon, just go to the open field calculator. Excuse me. So just click on this update existing field. Now there are multiple options you can see. Create a new field. If you forgot to previously that you forgot to add this area attribute previously when you were creating the shapefile, it's okay. You can create this new field here as well. And when you want to add additional attribute, but since you have already added here, so you can click on this update existing field. And as soon as you will click on this, there are two attributes which we have already added previously. It's available here. So I have clicked on this area, and I would like to, for example, add the area of this polygon. So now, if you see in this section here, there are various options are available. So in these options, basically, the option which I'm interested in is the raster. So in the raster, as soon as in this geometry, basically, if you this geometry option is there. So as soon as you click on this geometry, this dollar area symbol will come. So just click on this, and then you just see the preview here. If there is any error, if you add any expression here, if there is any error, then you will see you will not see this black, you will see something red. For example, if I remove this or something area like that, so this will show you expression is invalid. It means you're doing some mistake. So in order to make sure that your expression is correct, so you click on this, and then I have added here manually this dollar area symbol. So if you're doing it first time, and if you're committing any mistake, for example here, then in that case you can easily understand that whether your expression is valid or not. So that's how you can understand that how to make expression, how to write different expression in the field calculator. So for example, in this case, I have written completely correct, and then I'll click OK. So as soon as I clicked here, this area information come automatically. You don't need to fill manually. It will calculate automatically. Now remember, in the beginning, I mentioned the reference system here. So the reference system is what? Geographic coordinate system. If it would be in meter, then this area would be in meter. Otherwise, it is in kilometer square, or I don't know exactly which what is the unit of this. So we have to check and cross verify like which unit and measurement your reader or user is interested in. So you can fill those details based upon the user requirement. This is the first thing. Now, if you think that some mistakes I have done in this case, so you can just go to the delete field option, and you can just delete this area, and then you can just delete here by clicking, and then it will be automatically deleted. So now this field is gone. So as soon as you will click on this toggle editing mode, then this field will not be available. If I will not click on this, this field will remain as it is. It was before. So I have clicked on this save. Now we have only one field. Now you will say, okay, no, I want to add another field again. So either you can go here in the new field option, or you can again go to the open field calculator option, you can add. So for example, I want to add the new field here, and I want to add, for example, island, like the type. So the name attribute I've given type. Now the type is the text. So previously the area was the decimal number, but here the type is the text, and the length I'm keeping it 10. You can also increase it if you want. So I just keep it X, and I want to give the name. So I just want to give here the name. The type is, for example, island, and it's agriculture, agriculture field. Okay, so now you can see I cannot write E here, complete spelling here. Why? Because I've given the length is the length was only 10. So see, by using hit and trial, you will realize, okay, this is the mistake I have done. I cannot enter the full name here. Now I don't want to continue with this field. I want to remove it, and I have removed it. And I created the new field type again, but with larger size. And then again, if I will type here, now I can write the complete spelling here. Just a minute. I hope I have added the string, right? Oh yeah. See the mistake. In this case, this should be text, and it should be 15. So now we have created this field. Now we have these two attributes. So that's how you can make changes in the attributes, and you can add new attributes, or you can use the field calculator if you want to perform any operation. And if you want to create a new field, for example, area here. So I just taken the new field, and then I selected the decimal number, and then you can just write the expression directly, or then it will add automatically. So that's how you have added two different attributes of this polygon layer. So now we have added the polygon feature here. Now I would like to add convert this temporary layer. Now I realize, okay, now I want to convert this temporary layer into the permanent one. So you just click on this symbol here, and then you can either save this format into a shapefile, or you can save into a geo package, which I mentioned previously. So my file name is layer name is came here, and I want to give the location also. So in this case, for example, I'm giving the location here, land geo package. Name. Okay. So now this has been added, and then you can actually you can do what? You can save your project. So you can just give the name. Your project is this. My first project. So now you can see the symbol has been gone. There is no symbol here. It means this layer is now permanent, and it is now part of geo package, and it is now part of the project that is called my first project. So you can see the name my first project here. So up to this point, I hope it is clear to everyone. Can I get the feedback? Shall I continue, Hitesh? Like people are okay with this?
Yeah, I think yeah, I haven't allowed the mics. Do you want me to allow the mics?
Yeah, maybe if somebody want to ask some question, anybody.
Okay, yeah, we have got the responses in the chat box. We are good to go. And
Okay.
I'll be soon sharing the recording of the sessions as well. So you can, means sometimes you can skip some of the steps. So the participants can look at the recordings as well afterwards.
Okay. So now we have created this, and similarly we can add, for example, new layers here. And if you want to add some new layer, then simply click on this geo package, and then just select this land geo package, and you can create the name, for example, point, and then you can select this point here, and then add that field type something and maximum length 10. That's how you can add the point here. So that as soon as you will click OK, so you will find the file already exists. So you can create the new file, or you don't want to overwrite the existing file, just create it. And then as soon as you click on this, so again click on the toggle editing mode. Remember, every time you have to do this. So now new symbol will come, add point feature. So I have added a point here, and then type for example here lighthouse, and here home, and then so now you can see here we have this point layer is on, and then you can change it. The styling you can change it here. So for example, if you want to change the symbol like this, you can keep it, or you can categorize it. So if you want to categorize, so you can just click on the type and apply simple marker, and then the different types will come here, classified. So if you see here, we have now home, lighthouse, and treasure. Your different names we have given, and you can, if you want to change it, then you can just simply go to this option, simple marker. And I don't want to use simple marker because it is a lighthouse. So just click from symbol layer type to SVG maker. And if you go to the SVG maker, there are various symbols are there, and you can change these symbols. And I want to give, for example, here the lighthouse. Okay, apply. Now if you go to this lighthouse, so you can increase the size, and then you can also change the color. I want to give the red color, that will be more visible. And then similarly you can do it for home and any other type. So simple marker, and then you can give the SVG, you can go down, and you can give this home symbol. So that's how you can actually create the different type of styling by using. So I just gave here, for example, 15. So now you can see the other homes, this is the thing, and this is the, for example, treasure, for example, here. So in the case of treasure, we can give, for example, okay, now you want to change the color, you can change the color to yellow. So now we have this map. Now we have created two layers here, point layer and the polygon layer. Now I want to save this. Just click on this, save, and save. Now you can see the attribute table here. We have type and the field ID number, it will come automatically here. And in the case of island, we have this name, area, field ID, and type. Now I want to level it, and there is one more thing that you can do here. You can create the line feature as well. So if I will go with again in this here, so in the same database, I want to make root. In this root, for example, here I want to create a line feature. The name is again type. I'll keep the type like this 10, and okay, new layer. Now again you can click on this, and then you can create the line feature here. So that's how you can create the line, and then you can give here bike path. So now the most important thing which I would like to discuss here. So if you increase the width of this and change the color, for example, to black, then in that case, for example, I want to start from the same point here again, and I want to add a new line feature to the existing line. So you just click here somewhere in the panel, and then you make sure this snapping toolbar option is enabled. I'll do it like this so you can see. So this snapping toolbar options should be enabled. Now snapping is available here. It's enabled, and I would like to add a new. So in order to enable the snapping, there is a magnet button here. Just click on this, and as soon as you click, see, so you can see whenever you're taking your cursor to the line feature, it will automatically showing you the rectangular box. So there is a tolerance limit within this. It will automatically select the point feature. So now I want to add another line feature here, and like this. Similarly, like from oh, so I click on escape button, and then that's how I removed it. And then again you click on this. You can put the details here. Now we have both the features here, but they're in different, like same color, but I've given the different type. Now you can go to simply categorized, and you can categorize, you can give the type and then classify. So it is showing me two different colors here. So the bike path and the walk path. So in the bike path, you can go to again, you can change if you want to change. And then I want to change the color of, for example, this. So this is the bike path feature. And if I want to change the walk path feature, so you can just give the color simple green or red, whatever feature you're interested in. Okay. And then you can go back to your this symbol and then apply. So now we have these features here, two features. One is the bike path. Now I want to add the level as well. So you just go to the properties, or you can just click here in the level option. You can create single levels, and here you can choose the type. So as soon as you will choose the type, there is an option called walk path, and bike path is available here. If you want to use the styling here, different styling, then you can use a different styling, then you can make it more beautiful. So that's how you can actually prepare a beautiful map here. And again, you can do the styling and everything by using by go to the properties here, or by simply by doing information here. Now we have this home, treasure, and all this information here, and you can just make it more beautiful by using this style layering option. So up to this point, I hope it is clear to everyone. Now we have created this map. Now I want to make import or export. I want to export this map into the image format. So there are options in the project menus available. So you can go to map to image, map to PDF, whatever option that you want to export, you can use this. Otherwise, you can also create a map layout. So in the project menu, there is an option called new print layout, and you can click on this. And I want to make, for example, so now we have this panel, a new window will come. Now in order to add this map, you can just go to options. You can explore different options here. So for example, I want to add a map. So just click on this and select the panel, and then automatically this option will come here. So whatever area that is in the display panel, it will come automatically here. So now we have this option here, and then later on you can change the lot of things in this map, because right side, if you see, there are item properties. You can change the item properties here. And if you want to add other information, for example, if you want to add legend, if you want to add legend, just click on this legend option and just click here. So different options will come. So all the legend which is available here, they will come here automatically. So it's up to you. You want to keep what like what things you want to keep here, and what are things that you don't want to keep. So for example, in this case, I don't want to show name here, so I will keep it like this. It's already hidden. Okay. And island, and then I don't want to keep the OpenStreetMap, so I'll keep it hidden, and then you can reduce the size here. So that's how you can include the legend, and then you can change a lot of things here, like for example, color, symbol, spacing, and everything. Many options are available. And then, for example, if I want to add level and so you can as soon as you will create this level, so you can write here the name. It will change here. Now you can see it's very small, but you can change the font size and everything, and you can place it wherever you want. Similarly, you can create add the scale here. Right now it is showing me the scale size, and you can also add the north arrow. So that's how you can create all these different functionalities within this map. Now, in order to export this map, so I just go to layout and then export as an image, export as a PDF. And then this will automatically save into the respective folder. So if you want to export as an image, so use treasure map, save. You can change the resolution as well, page width and size based upon your requirement, and then save. So it has saved all the information here. Now you can see this treasure map is there. You can also add the grids if you want to add the grid here. Now I would like to tell you one thing, like after this workshop, you can go to the following website. I'll share this website, like not website, it's a ResearchGate web page created by me for my ResearchGate web page. I'm sharing in the chat box. Just maybe so everybody can refer to this manual. I have created this manual for the QGIS training module. So this manual is like it has more than close to like 6,000 now. Almost it is reaching 6,000 worldwide download. So I have created this manual. So if you open this training module, in this training module, the brief outline is there, like what you can do with the QGIS, like how to import different GPS data, what are the interpolation techniques that you can use, and how to update existing map with the Google Earth Engine imagery, how to do like manage attribute and data stored. Because in 2 hour workshop, I cannot cover all these features, but this manual gives the complete information. So you can see different exercise are there, like what are the different basic steps of digitization, how to georeference a raster data, how to do the database handling by writing the special query, georeferencing of the map by using the field data taken by the GPS, then splitting of the vector data, merging. So you can perform various type of operations like splitting and merging, subdivision of features and assigning a part of the feature, preparation of map layout, which I have discussed right now, interpolation technique and general. So this manual is basically a step-by-step procedure which I've created, and you can use and download from this link. And you can see all the details are there, and there is a step-by-step procedure, and every step I mentioned that information that how you can select and change the information by highlighting the box and by writing the information there. So this is a manual you can download. It is free of cost, and all the information regarding the advanced and the basic version of the QGIS, from starting from digitization to the map preparation and data handling, and then finally like this information of interpolation and other things. And apart from that, you can also get the information about the how to create the NDVI by using the raster dataset. So I'll just quickly I have shown you this. You can use this in a link in the chat box which I have shared. So you can download this dataset, and if I will move further with this, so for example, if you want to generate, for example, normalized difference vegetation index, using the Landsat data. So before moving this, I just want to show you. Yeah, I think somebody is writing something. Download. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Hitesh. So you can share with the participant, Hitesh, if anybody is not able to download.
Yeah, sure. We can share. I think it is easily accessible. Using that link, we can easily download it.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Khare, there are a few queries in the chat box. So, will you like to take them at the end?
Yeah, we can take now as well. There is no problem because something is remaining. So I just wanted to show them as well.
Okay.
Maybe.
So please take a call. Means at the end or now. It's up to you.
Just okay. I'll just show them one more thing, and then I will. Okay, just so I just save. So just don't forget to save your project. Save it, and then I'll create the new one. Okay. Now, quickly, I want to show you something very interesting here. The point pattern analysis. Now, for example, I have this layer. So now you can see, now you're familiar with the QGIS. So I'm just doing it quite quickly. Now there are different type of options for the shapefile. CPG, .dvf, .prj, .shp, .shx. Remember, this is the main shapefile. Apart from that, there are other additional information. For example, projection information, the database information, and the information about the basics of the shapefile is associated with these files. But the main .shp is the main extension with the shapefile. So for example, I have imported here. You can directly drag and drop into the layer option, and then I'm dragging dropping the other raster layers as well, and then I'll show you some very interesting analysis called point pattern analysis. So you can do the multiple operations like the last raster operation and the for example vector operation all together in this case. So there is a plugin in the QGIS. If it is not available, you can download from manage and install plugin if it is not available in the plugin. So there is called point sampling tool. So in the point sampling tool, basically, for example, if I want to if I want to extract the information of all these rasters all together, then how to do this? So before doing this, just go to the processing toolbox, and there is an option called vector creation. Now in the vector creation, there is an option called random points in layer bounds. So just for your information, this is my polygon layer, and I want to create the number of points within this list. For example, I want to create 100 points, and I'm not sure about the distance. I'll keep it like 0, but you can also choose a distance. I want to create the 100 points. So either you can create the random, so these 100 point random points will be generated within this layer, and I don't want to save it. So I'm just creating this temporary layer. Now you can see these 100 points are there. If you right click and open the attribute table, so they are the different IDs which will automatically given by the QGIS. Now I have used this option random points in layer bounds. So it is using this layer bound information and generating the 100 number of points within this layer. So you can see here it is a temporary layer, which I mentioned previously, temporary scratch layer. So the symbol is there. Now I want to use this point sampling tool, and I would like to extract the information of different parameters like for different raster data set. Now you can see the other information as other raster data set information is not there because I have not checked them yet. So you can just close it and check. Now the layer name is quite big and I want to keep it simple. So click on the properties and go to the source and write raster, or write something like NDVI. Okay, and I want to keep it like elevation. Or precipitations, I'm just keeping the press short form here, and the temperature. This is temperatures, I'm keeping TMP. Okay, so now we have all this information here. Now we can go to the point sampling tool. So now in the point sampling tool, you have to select the point, those number of points which you have created randomly here. And then we would like to extract the information from all these raster data set by using temperature, precipitation, elevation, and NDVI. So you can select the output layer here, browse, and then here I can save, for example, data raster, and just don't forget to change the information here. So it will change it to shapefile. You can save it to CSV format also, change to shapefile, save, and then click OK. Now it is very quick. It is saved. It is not a temporary layer. It is a permanent layer. There is no symbol here. And you can see here the complete table. So we have this ID, temperature, precipitation, elevation, and NDVI. So this is called point analysis tool. So you have extracted the data of all those different raster data set by creating the random 100 points within this bounded polygon layer. So now you want to save this data. So export and save feature. Now you can export into different formats, and you can export into, for example, CSV format. So I just want to export into CSV format. So data raster which I extracted. So now previously we export into .shp extension. Now it is .csv, comma separated value or comma separated variable. Okay. If you go to the respective folder here, this CSV file is there. Now we have this information in our CSV. Now you can see that by using different operations, these are like some advanced operations, very advanced operations you can perform in QGIS by using by handling the raster data set and the vector data set. So all these things, majority of things are present in this manual. So you can use this manual for your reference purpose. And if you have any, for example, further queries, maybe if I will be having time, I can tell you how to calculate the NDVI. And if you have any queries, you can write me on this email, or you can just tweet me at the rate Sid_hiker. And for related to R programming also, QGIS software also, you can do it. So Hitesh, I can handle the questions now if you have somebody has any query.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Khare, for the nice presentation. Though we all understand that it is a bit difficult to carry out a demonstration or a handout session in the online mode. But thank you so much for your efforts in making us understand how we can use the different functionalities of QGIS. Okay, so yes, please. Okay, so I'll take a few queries that we had in the chat box. And in the meanwhile, I request the participants to please either put their queries in the chat box, or I have also allowed the mics so they can also unmute themselves and ask the queries. Okay, so I'll start with the starting queries. One is from Mr. Pankaj Pandey. So he's asking, what is QGIS plugin?
Okay. So basically, it is basically used for different type of like animation line you can use, combine attribute from the CSV file, merging layer. So it is like a very advanced tool for different operations like geocoding, import, export, CSV file, mainly handling for KML file, CSV file, and you can modify those CSV file projections, geometry type, and you can see this text to float conversion you can do. So basically it is like an advanced version of tool to handle the CSV files. So for example, we have this CSV file currently, and then by using this tool, you can handle different type of CSVs. So for example, in this case, geocode operation is there. So geocode means like we need to have some sort of latitude and longitude information also in order to handle this type of information. So for example, if you have GPS data, so for GPS data, you can do this analysis. Now this option is, for example, this create buffer option is there. So I want to generate the buffer around this point. So in this case, if you take the distance, for example, 5 meter or 10 meter, So you can create the buffer along this point. So that's how different options are there in this MMGIS. Basically, the thing is that in this MMGIS it's an additional plugin which is created by someone to do some functionalities which you can already perform in the GIS software. For example, in this software. So buffer analysis, if you want to do the buffer analysis, and you can see here data management tool, and I hope it is there. Yeah, buffer is there. Similarly, here also you can see create the buffers. So there is no additional things, but additionally you can handle, like for example, CSV file by using MMQGIS plugin.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khare. Next, I'll move to the query of Danesh. So actually, this query was actually at the time when you were showing how to create a polygon. So he's asking if we want to split a single polygon into multiple, how we can do that.
Okay, so if you go to my manual here, so there is an exercise called splitting of vector data and merging of vector data. If you go to this page number 57 here, so you can just create this type of, you can do splitting. So there are various things basically in the splitting. It's not only dividing into two halves or two different parts, but so you can see this split feature. So this will come in the advanced digitizing toolbar option. And in this case, you have to enable this toolbar option. So you can either check whether this toolbar is enabled or not. So advanced digitization tool, in this case it is not. So as soon as you will enable it, and then for example, if I will select it and toggle edit, many various options will come, like splitting, split feature, split parts. So now it's very important to understand that you are doing the split feature option or a split part feature, part option. So if you're doing the split feature, so in this case, you can just select that split feature option, and then you can divide. For example, if you want to divide this main building into two parts, so you can divide by using this split feature option, and then accordingly you can divide into this. But still, this when you divide it, the attribute will remain same. For example, main building. But if you want to change the attribute also, you can change it later on by using different options in the field calculator menu. Now, split parts. So there is a second section which is called split part. Now I want to divide a particular building into two different sections, but I also would like to assign. So for example, if you have, for example, in your home, one portion previously, like 10 years back, it was the living room, but after 10 years, half of the portion you would like to assign to the like bedroom. Then what you can do, you can split into two parts, and then this portion will remain as a living room, but this portion will be assigned to the bedroom. So for example, in this case, if you want to assign this part as a central library, which was like building here, and they want to do they want to change this building type from academic to, or from dome to central library, you can do by split by part option. So you can see in this my manual, it is available.
Okay, just adding to this particular query, when we were drawing the polygons or creating the shape files. So using that OpenStreet layer, OpenStreetMap layer, so means the query that I want to ask is that particular layer georeferenced? Can we use the extracted polygons or shape files without georeferencing them?
If you do not georeference them, then basically you can simply, generally, whenever you are handling the vector data, or in this case, you need to it should be georeferenced. The base layer should be georeferenced.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you do not use a reference georeference data, then you cannot overlay over anything. That's the point.
Okay, so moving on with the queries. Next is again from Mr. Pankaj Pandey. He's asking you to please let him know some important plugins for hydrological applications.
It's a good question, Pankaj, but actually I do not deal with hydrology applications, so I cannot give the answer right now. But yeah, I can send this information to you by email. So maybe you can give your email ID to Pankaj Hitesh. So I will share with him this information.
Next, there are a few thank you messages to you for your wonderful presentation. So, Dr. Kadambi is asking you that can one extract a DEM from a Google Earth image using QGIS?
DEM? No. Actually,
Yeah, on the top of your chat box, the query is there.
Okay, can you extract a DEM from Google Earth image? No. You cannot extract the DEM from Google Earth image because when you extract the image from Google Earth, it is just normally a RGB image. It is not a digital elevation model. Although the Google Earth has functionality when you can create the DEM elevation profile, but the extraction is not possible. In order to extract the extract the DEM or working on the DEM, you need to go to the specific sites, for example, on the ISRO Bhuvan portal or the NASA portal where you can download the ESTA data or SRTM data, or on the ISRO Bhuvan portal, the Cartosat data of Indian region is available free of cost at 30 meters spatial resolution, which I've shown you in my presentation as well. So you cannot do this task.
There are two queries now from Dr. Ganesh Bhatt. He's asking that in both the queries, he's asking, is QGIS better than ArcGIS? I think he's asking about the speed. Is QGIS faster than ArcGIS?
Like there is no precise answer for it basically because it depends which type of system you're using, what type of requirement you have, and what type of data you're handling first of all. Because QGIS is open source and it's quite fast. I've used it. I'm using it from last 5-6 years now. And but ArcGIS, since it is one of the oldest and one of the famous and commercial software, so all the enterprises basically they're using the ArcGIS. So I have not tested for the server applications basically, but in server application ArcGIS is quite faster. But I'm not sure about the QGIS. But in general, for normal things, if you want to do the analysis, I prefer QGIS over ArcGIS.
Okay, another query from Dr. Ganesh. It is QGIS free for commercial use as well?
Yes, like basically you can use it, but you have to give like just the way you have to cite it. That's it.
Next is the query from Dr. Aditya Gupta. He's thanking you for this nice presentation, and he's asking you that can this manual is available to us? I think he is asking about the manual from the ResearchGate. I hope so.
Yeah, you can use it. Yes, it's free. You can download it. Anybody can download it.
Okay, next the query from Sunil Jose. So he's asking for any plugins for biodiversity studies.
Yes, very good question because I work for biodiversity data set. So if you see here, this GWIF occurrence data. So if you have information about any scientific name of the any species, so you just click on that species and GWIF data is free of cost available across the globe. And it's a very so you can see this biodiversity data plugin is now available here in the QGIS and you can see they have created this plugin. So if you have any specific species information you want and a different type of data set, you can download about the occurrence and the species and eWord species data. All this information is now you can directly extract by using this GWIF plugin. I use it for the eBird data analysis in my case. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that there are no further queries in the chat box. So if any of the participants have any queries, I request them to please unmute themselves and yeah, Mr. Danish, please.
Hi, sir. Good evening, sir. Myself, Dr. Dhanis Ligade from Sholapur, Maharashtra. Suppose I want to create a location map. I
Yeah.
think at the when we can add the map. Uh, visual maps may be displayed at the in the I think O panel. So suppose I want to create a India, Maharashtra, and some block level means Solapur districts. So
Mhm.
how we can add the three maps at the one time?
In the map panel, when you generate the maps.
Yeah, I want to generate the image. So suppose I want to generate the image, but I want to add the three maps: India, Maharashtra, and Solapur.
So you want to add all, if I understood your question correctly, so in your case you want to add all the maps together inside one map, or you want to
Yeah.
create three different maps? Like within the panel, you want all the three maps, or you want to add like create three separate maps? Because if you want to, for example, if you want to uh, uh,
Yes, yes, sir.
generate,
This case, sir. Yeah, yeah. Here,
so
suppose we
here you
want
can
to generate
add
it.
different pages here, right?
Okay.
You can add different pages. So multiple pages can be part of this map.
I think sir is asking for multiple frames, sir. Data frame.
Ah, okay, multiple frames. Yeah, you can add multiple frames here. But the thing is that whatever is available in your panel currently, that will be part of it. So for example, if I have any map here, I don't have any map right now, but you can add the multiple frame here. There is no problem. It's possible. Like for example, if you want to add a bigger area map, for example, the India map, and within the India map you want to highlight the Maharashtra, then you can
Yeah.
add those multiple frames within this. It is possible. Basically, the thing is like in QGIS, the best part is that if you want to explore, I would like to suggest that there are a lot of open source material is available because it is an open source software. So in a Stack Exchange also, if you put your queries, you will get your answers very quickly, and a lot of materials are available. Maybe I will share the details with Dr. Hitesh, so he can share those links with all of you. And if you have any specific query, if you're doing some, analysis at your block level, district level, or state level, you can just write me directly. I will try to help you if you have any problem in handling the database or something. There is a question, can QGIS open KML? Yes, it can open the KML file. So if you are creating any KML file in the Google Earth engine, Google Earth, then you can directly import that KML file into QGIS, and you can also convert that KML file into shapefile. The second question is, can we get LULC map using QGIS? So I'm not sure about it because I have not used it, but yeah, in the OpenLayer plugin, there are some maps services that are there, but they're not LULC map. But in the SCP dataset, you can download the different products of the maps. For example, in this case, you can download the different products of Esther, Landsat. So in the Esther and like MODIS, and in case of MODIS, there are different LULC maps which are readily available from the NASA. So if you have your user ID and login ID password at earthdata.nasa, so you can directly download those maps for your particular area of interest into the by using the QGIS. And more question, some idea about PyQGIS? No,
Yeah,
I have not.
actually, this was a query earlier as well. I escaped it.
Sorry,
Sorry. Yeah.
sorry, it's okay, no problem. So PyQGIS I have not worked with, but yes, in QGIS, because all the plugins can be developed by using the Python, so you can use the PyQGIS package as well. And one more thing, like in QGIS, you can connect your Python environment directly with the QGIS, and you can also connect your R environment with the QGIS. Now there is additional functionality of Google Earth Engine is there. So Google Earth Engine plugin can also be used. So you can directly connect your Google Earth Engine with this. Yeah, this map you are showing here, Mr. Danish, they have actually, it's better to, I suggest you to create 3 different maps and then combine them together. Within this panel, I don't think it will look good. But yeah, you can create these 3 maps within the QGIS multiple panels. It is possible. And one person is saying, please share your email IDs. Yeah, I have shown my email ID, maybe this one, while sharing in the chat box. So you can use this. And sir, can we use RStudio to perform any operation in QGIS? Yes, there are a lot of libraries in geospatial libraries in RStudio, and you can use those libraries in RStudio. And in QGIS also, you can connect your R libraries directly, and then you can perform and write your scripts in QGIS, similarly like PyQGIS that was mentioned by Mr. Pankaj. And I got error number 25 as said Unicode problem QGIS 3.5. Well, this is a very specific question regarding the error, so I cannot answer right now. But yeah, you can put it in the Stack Exchange because I'm not sure what is the problem here.
I think he's talking about the download, I guess. So yeah, exactly. We can't be sure what is this.
Yeah.
Dr. Khare, can you please unshare your screen so that we can see you in full screen?
Just a minute. How to unshare?
Yeah.
Stop sharing. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess there are no further queries. Okay, so any last question? Last question for Dr. Khare, those who want to interact or want to put. Yeah, Mr. Danesh, I think, Dr. Danesh, I think you have a raised hand. And okay, Shirshak has also a raised hand. Yeah, please, Shirshak, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. So actually, my question is a little different from here because many of the panelists in this workshop and the previous had talked about modeling the flow of water. And I can see there is a lot of potential in QGIS. But I haven't really seen stuff like some. They talked about mathematical models like HEC-RAS, Mike2. So all of these can it be done within QGIS, or we need to do somewhere else? Flow modeling, water flow.
Modeling part.
No, actually, allow me, Dr. Khare. Actually, HEC-RAS is a different software. HEC-RAS is altogether a different software. So it is used for modeling the flow, the flood inundation, all these things. And sometimes you can find some plugins, for example, SWAT, the Soil and Water Assessment Tool in ArcGIS. You can find the plugins there. But HEC-RAS is completely a different software package.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. And Mike2, sir, anything about?
I haven't used it, but I guess Mike 12, Mike 11, it is also a separate software tool that is used again for this flood mapping or flow mapping.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Videsh.
Okay, actually, it was more from the hydrological side. Okay, so with this, I thank you, Dr. Khare. Thank you so much once again. It is always a pleasure to hear from you.
Thank you, Videsh, for inviting me.
And I hope that we can arrange a longer workshop with you. Yeah, so that the sessions can be more fruitful. Anyway, I'll be sharing the recordings of this session so that whatever you have covered, it can be reached to our participants. We are also joined by Dr. Sengel.
Hello, Dr. Siddharth.
Hello. Hi, how are you?
First of all, apologize from my side. I am not joined on time due to some reason.
No problem. I can understand you are busy over there.
Yeah, so actually at that time, I thought that's happened. Okay. But after that, I listening your talk and whatever I want to be here in this talk about to the hands-on training kind of thing. in the talk.
Yes.
That's happened. So
Okay,
I
thank you.
hope participants have learned about the hands-on training of that part.
Yeah, I'm looking
That's
forward
very
to
interesting.
arrange more, like if more talks, like more longer sessions, so like
Yeah.
the participant can benefit out of it.
Yeah, that also I discussed once, Dr. Hitesh, about that thing. So, but it requires a longer duration, but that's not possible. So even though whatever we have a limited time of the 2 hours, in that duration also, whatever you had to cover, that is also very enough cover you about the hands-on training point of view.
Thank you.
Because most of the session happen like a theoretical part and the lecture kind of thing. And this one is the session is kind of the more practical way of the session. How to use, how to do in that direction. So that should be the hands-on point of view. So what's your view, Dr. Hitesh?
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of the things that was missing from this FDP up to now. Thank you so much, Dr. Khare, for providing such a nice hands-on, not hands-on, but it was a demonstration session.
Yeah, more on demonstration.
Yeah. Later on. Yeah, once we have the recordings, we'll share it with the participants, and I think then they can do the hands-on at their ends.
And one more question from my side, Dr. Siddharth, if possible, can you share your PPT in PDF format?
Yeah, sure. I'll share the PPT as well to Dr. Hitesh.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So please share that PPT in PDF format. So we will share that PPT to participants.
Sure. Definitely, I'll do that.
Dr. Khare, please put Shivani ji also in CC so that
okay. I'll keep her on CC.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again,
it was very nice interaction with all of you. Thank you, Hitesh, for inviting me, and thank you, Dr.